Do you consider yourself a high achiever? Smart, driven, highly successful? I am so excited to have you. My name is Julia Arndt and I'm the host of the Stressed podcast. I will help you develop your stress resilience the same way you've developed your workplace superpowers. Learn peak performance tools to thrive at work and in your personal life. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome back to Stressed, the podcast to develop your next workplace superpowers. My name is Julia Arndt and I'm the host of this podcast, and I'm really excited that you are listening to today's podcast episode, because today we're going to talk about the topic that I'm probably the most passionate about, that has everything to do with stress. It has to do with stress management, it has to do with feeling better, developing your workplace superpowers. It is mental health. And the month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm sure that you have already heard it across a couple of different platforms at this point, but it is really important to talk about mental health. So today I want to talk with you about your mental health. I want to talk about why is it so important to be aware of your mental health? Why maybe I'm feeling like we haven't really talked too much about mental health before, and why we should pay more attention to our mental health, especially during these uncertain times. I usually never do this, but I do want to say this. I have had a couple of really powerful podcast episodes over the last couple of weeks, so I hope that you make sure to listen to those as well. Maybe you have already, then you can completely disregard this message right now. If you haven't, make sure to listen to the last two podcast episodes. They are my absolute favorite, and I think they are really important for you to listen to. The one from last week is about how to hack your menstrual cycle for peak performance. If you are a guy and you're listening to this podcast, it doesn't matter. Make sure that you're listening to that podcast. It's really interesting to understand a woman, no matter if you have a woman in your life or if you're working with female co-workers. It is a really cool podcast episode, and I would love you to listen to it. And then the other podcast episode previous to that was how to live an authentic life, which, when we are honestly talking about mental health, is very important that we're talking about our authenticity and our values, because if we are not living in alignment with our values and living an authentic life, that can have 100% also an effect on our mental health. And that is why I'm telling you this. Make sure that you're listening to these two podcast episodes. They are very dear to my heart. I'm trying to be more authentic in my podcast episodes, so I want you to listen to it, and I want you to be just aware that those are really important for mental health awareness as well. So when we are talking about mental health, and with that we're jumping into today's topic of today's podcast episode, it is really important to understand, what does mental health actually mean? And here is a very simple definition of mental health. The Oxford Dictionary says that mental health is a person's condition with regards to their psychological and emotional well-being. It is all about how we think, feel, act, and behave. And your mental health is affected by all aspects of your lives. By your work, how productive you are, what expectations you put on yourself, what type of social relationships and interactions you have, your physical health, your nutrition. All of the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis influence your mental health. And you know, there is still a lot of stigma around mental health, and that is exactly the reason why I have made it my mission to talk about mental health and to create more awareness around it, because mental health, simply what it means, is your psychological and emotional well-being. Don't we have this all? Of course we have it all. We should have it all. If we don't have it, we are mentally ill, and that's a big problem, because we are making all of the decisions with our brains. And if we are not healthy, if we are feeling low, if we're feeling exhausted, if we're feeling stressed, we are not going to make smart decisions for ourselves anymore, or it's going to be very difficult to make smart decisions. So mental health is crucial. Before your physical health comes your mental health. Because if you're not mentally stable, if you're not mentally strong enough to make decisions, to make the right decisions for yourself, you'll make unhealthy decisions for yourself. You're not going to go outside, you're not going to go move, you're not exercising, you're not choosing the right you're not choosing the right things to eat, everything is screwed up. That's why your mental health is so important. I, for the longest time, yes, thought as well that there is a stigma around mental health. I thought for the longest time it's a very clinical term. When people are mentally sick, that sounds really negative. Then those people are crazy and we don't want to have anything to do with those people. But let's be honest, we all have mental health, and especially in today's world where we are all 24/7 connected to our devices, mental health is more important than ever. And what is really interesting, I can talk with you about mental health, by the way, forever. So I'm trying to make this short today in this podcast episode, but you'll see me jump maybe from one topic to another. But really interesting, Instagram, for example, has been announced as the worst social media tool for your mental health. Isn't that crazy? There's statistics and studies behind it now that Instagram is not a very good tool for your mental health. Why? Because we are comparing ourselves. We think that our lives need to be a certain way. We think that we need to look a certain way. All of these different things create stress and creates mental health problems. And that is why we are creating more awareness around mental health, because it's important for you to understand what mental health is and what you can do in order to be more positive. I have just recorded a YouTube video on how to reduce negative self-talk. So this has absolutely, of course, something to do with mental health as well. And I would love you to go over to my YouTube channel and to check that out as well, because I am trying to get to 1,000 subscribers to start monetizing my YouTube channel, and I need your help with that. I'm trying to produce really, really powerful content. This specific video, for example, has also some exercises for you, so you can start really making changes in your life. You can start to shift your negative thoughts to more positive thoughts. So make sure that you're checking that out as well. Anywho, when we're talking about mental health and the stigma around mental health, I know that it had a lot of stigma in the past, but we need to stop thinking kind of negative things about mental health, because we all have mental health. We might not all have a mental illness, but we have mental health. And if we are not taking care of our health, our mental and physical health, we will get problems. So that's why it is so important. And you know, until I was diagnosed with burnout and anxiety, I also didn't have a very positive attitude when it came to mental health. Now it's my absolute favorite topic. I'm super passionate about it, and I think everybody should talk more about mental health, because it is really, really important. If your brain is your most important resource, and I know if you're listening to this podcast, it is. You are a high achiever, you are very successful in your life, you are probably having an amazing job and a great life. And so your brain is your most important resource, and you need to make sure to take better care of it. So let's talk about a couple of different ways of how you can start to be mentally more strong. And we already talked about a couple of reasons of why you are maybe mentally not so strong, right? When you are feeling super overworked, when you are stressed, when you're exhausted, when the quality of your sleep is lacking, then you will have more mental health problems. What does that really mean to have mental health problems? It simply means that maybe you're not as strong as you could be if you're taking care of yourself. So you're making poorer decisions, you have a harder time to focus and concentrate. You're maybe not as productive as you would like to be in order to move forward in your life, both on a professional and personal level. So it is really important to pay really close attention to that. So when we're talking about strengthening your brain, when we're talking about strengthening your mental health, let's talk about the 3 most important tools, the first 3 things that you can do in order to strengthen your mental health. Tool number 1, you have heard me talk about these topics before and before, but I am not getting tired of this, because I 100% believe that this will make a huge, tremendous difference in your life if you start to integrate those different tools. And tool number 1 is to create routines. When we are creating routines, we are reducing the need to make decisions, and we are increasing the time that we have available. And apparently all of us are having difficulty managing our times because we have not enough of it. We have too much to do and no time. So when we are creating routines, we are making already smart decisions for ourselves before the event has even occurred. right? So for example, you're creating a morning routine. You say, hey, I would like to get up in the morning. I would like to brush my teeth, journal, maybe go for a run, whatever it is that you would like to do that energizes you, that fills your energy levels. That is what you should be doing. And so now that you have already created that list, you do not need to make these decisions in the morning anymore. You just start taking care of them one by one. And here's a pro tip. I would highly recommend to you to not check your emails in the morning first thing when you get up. This is extremely unhealthy and super detrimental to your mental health. I challenge people to do this all the time. People sometimes tell me I am getting anxious if I can't check my phone. If you are checking your phone because you want to know if you have a work email or if you have a meeting in the morning, do it the night before. Set yourself a schedule, know when you have to start your workday, and then do not check your phone. Or if you really think that you have to check your phone in the morning, check that one thing that you were supposed to do because there was that one question that gave you anxiety, and then put your phone away. Because what happens all the time when we are taking our phone in our hands, we are seeing another notification or another message and we are getting distracted, and all of a sudden, instead of just checking this one thing, we are checking 50 different things, and we might be even checking 50 different things, but not that one thing. I know that this is really likely that you are doing this, and that is exactly why I'm telling you, pro tip on creating routines. In the morning and in the evening, your phone should not be the first or last thing that you're doing throughout your day. Test it out. It has made the biggest difference in my life. If I do check my phone in the mornings, which sometimes, very rarely, but it does sometimes happen, I definitely have not as good of a day as I have if I do not check my phone. Because when I'm checking my phone, when I'm checking my notifications, my anxiety levels naturally rise, and I'm starting to think about all of the different things that I have to get done throughout the day, and I am super distracted and I'm not taking care of myself, which is the most important priority. And you should make yourself your own priority. Nobody else is going to do it. If you have a great partner, they might do it maybe a little bit, but otherwise it is not what other people will do. You need to make yourself a priority, so do that. So tip number one, or tool number one, when we are talking about mental health, it is about really creating powerful routines to set yourself up for success in the morning. Be really mindful about your own self-care and take the time for yourself to replenish your energy levels before you're giving out your energy to anybody else. That's really important. I am super passionate about it. As you can tell, I think routines have made the biggest change in my life, and I want you to start testing it out. You have probably been listening to my podcast, or you have been listening to other people say this, but you have never implemented in your life. Well, then start doing it. We know a lot of things, but we don't do them, and I am really trying to get you to do them. That is my next passion. That is my next biggest goal in my life. After stress management and helping people understand why it is so important, the second one is to get into action. So I'm here for you. I'm your coach. If you want to learn more about it, if you want somebody that holds you accountable to it, you can head over to my Instagram account. I'm posting a lot of content on my Instagram account about my own life, about my own routines. And yes, I just said that Instagram is not a good tool for your mental health, but I believe it is about how you're using it. So that is one tip. Tool number two that is super important when we're talking about strengthening your mental health is moving daily. Yes, this might be kind of counterproductive, right? Because we're thinking, well, we're just talking about mental health and now you're talking about physical health. But mental and physical health is connected. If you're sitting all day long because you're working in front of your computer all day long and you're not moving a muscle, then I'm sure that all of you have experienced this before, that you're going to bed in the evening and you cannot fall asleep because your brain is super exhausted, but your body is not. Your body helps you to replenish your energy levels on a very different level, but on a very powerful level. It helps you to release endorphins, it helps you to move, it will help you for your overall long-term health in a very healthy way. So it is really important that you're moving daily, and it helps you to be more productive, because when we are taking breaks, you have heard me talk about this before as well, but if you are taking regular breaks, if you're using your breaks to go outside and move your body, you will feel mentally a lot stronger. There are a lot of studies and a lot of research with mental illness patients that if they have increased the amount of physical activity, that they are feeling better. So there is a really strong connection between moving daily and your mental health. And I highly encourage you to start moving more. We are all not moving enough. If you say that you're exercising on a daily basis, that's great, and I hope that you do anyway. But when we are sitting 8 or 9 or 10 hours every day in front of our computer and then we are moving 1 or 2 hours per day, that is still not enough movement. You see where I'm getting at? All right. I have done a personal experiment over the last couple of weeks and it has literally blown my mind. And what I started to do is that every morning when I get up, I'm going on a 10 to 20 minute run. It is super small. Sometimes it's 0.6 miles. Sometimes it's 1.5 miles. Sometimes it's 2 miles if I'm really good and maybe it's a Saturday morning. But I'm moving my body every morning and it has made an incredibly tremendous difference to how I feel throughout the day and how mentally switched on and productive I am. It's incredible. Try this out. I am already considering myself as a very healthy, physically healthy person. I'm considering myself as somebody that's very active. I live in Lake Tahoe. I live in the mountains. I have 2 dogs. I am going outside, of course, every day in order to walk them and to spend time with them outside. But I have never done this part. I always also said that I'm not a morning person. I always said that I am not a morning exercise person, but I'm doing it anyway, and trust me, it has made an incredible difference in my life. And I've been doing this now for 3 weeks. I have not missed one day, and the reason why I haven't missed that one day is because the effects and the positivity that it gives me to do that outweighs that pain in the morning sometimes to get my shoes on and to go outside. That's always the most important and the most difficult thing anyway, right? So get outside, move daily, move your body in order to strengthen your mental health. So that is tool number 2 that I wanted to share with you today. And finally, tool number 3, you might have guessed it, it's practicing gratitude. When we are talking about mental health, when we are talking about having a lot of negative thoughts and a lot of negative self-talk, it is important that we are strengthening that muscle to think more positively instead of negatively. This is, yes, a muscle that you can strengthen. Your brain is a muscle. It is a muscle. We forget about that. Our brains are muscles and we can train them. We can train them to think differently, but it requires some work, like anything in our lives, right? If we are trying to create a new habit, we have to strengthen our brain muscle just as much as we should strengthen our other muscles in our body, but it is possible, even though maybe sometimes you might feel like it is not possible. So why practicing gratitude? Well, practicing gratitude is really powerful because we are very critical people. Our nervous system is always scanning the environments for threats. We are always overanalyzing every situation because we want to be better, we want to be more perfect, but it keeps us in negative thought patterns all the time. I should do this better, I should do that better, I need to improve that, I need to talk to this person. We are constantly thinking negative thoughts and we are constantly thinking in to-do lists. And so I highly encourage you to start a journaling gratitude practice. It sounds super simple. All of these tools sound super simple, right? But again, here is the difference. There's a big difference between knowing them and doing them, which is why I am repeating myself also in this podcast, because yes, those tools are super simple, but they will make a tremendous difference in your life. My 85-year-old grandma started a gratitude practice 2 years ago because I encouraged her to do it, and she hasn't stopped it. Again, why is my 85-year-old grandma not stopping to write positive thoughts? Because she has realized that it made a tremendous difference in her life and it made her feel more accomplished and happier throughout the day. So in my eyes, this is the perfect evidence that practicing gratitude is really, really powerful, because even if my 85-year-old grandma is journaling, it is the perfect evidence that it is a really powerful practice and that you should start doing it as well, because it's super simple and not rocket science. So 3 tools. Today I want to just give you 3 tools. There's obviously other podcast episodes where I'm going deeper into these different topics, but just as a reminder, mental health is really, really important. That's why we are having a whole month every year where we are practicing mental health awareness. And you should start with 3 super simple but probably the most profound and most powerful tools in order to strengthen not only your mental health, but what you forget with that is also you're strengthening your workplace superpower. Because when you're mentally strong, when you're taking care of yourself, when you're creating routines, when you're moving daily, and when you're practicing gratitude, then you will also be more focused and more productive in your life. I will 100% promise you that. Here's your money back guarantee. If it doesn't work for you, then call me, and you haven't paid any money for this podcast episode, but this is how sure I am about really those different tools. They have made a tremendous difference in my life, and I'm considering myself as a high achiever and peak performer, and I want to stay that way, and I want to become even better, which is why I'm testing out new tools all the time as well, for myself, but of course also for you, in order to share them with you, in order to help you become even more productive as well. So that's all I wanted to share with you today. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you're a little bit inspired to at least try one thing out. You don't have to do everything right away. This is impossible anyway, and it's not sustainable, and you'll probably not set yourself up for success. But maybe now, before you finish this podcast episode, reflect on one thing. What is one thing that you would like to test out? What is one thing where you're like, I think Julia might be right. Maybe I should create a more powerful morning routine or evening routine or moving practice or gratitude practice. Maybe it's just one thing. Maybe it's just that in the mornings you are not checking your phone anymore right away because you want to test it out, because you're curious about your anxiety levels. So make a decision of what you would like to test out. Test it out for 7 days. I want to hear from you. If you found it helpful, if you learned something in the process, let me know. This is why I'm doing this, because I want to interact with you and because I want to help you, and any message that I'm receiving from you is highly appreciated. So take care of your mental health, take care of yourself, and I talk to you again next week at the same time, at the same place. Talk to you soon. Take care. Julia.